JavaScript introduction. JavaScript started live as LiveScript, but Netscape changed the name, possibly because of the excitement being generated by Java to JavaScript. JavaScript made its first appearance in Netscape 2.0 in 1995 with a name LiveScript. JavaScript is a lightweight interpreted programming language with object-oriented capabilities that allows you to build interactivity into otherwise static HTML page. This just to tell you that JavaScript is not a standalone application. You have to use it with other programming language in order for you to build an interactivity web page. But before we continue on this section, I have to explain to you how JavaScript, how it works, and how it makes you, as in how it helps you in building an interactivity page. So let's take facebook.com as a typical example. When you go to facebook.com, you will discover that in the home page there is a registration form and there is a login form. Under this registration form, I'm expected to fill in my first name, my last name, my email, retype email, new password, birthday, and gender. I am expected to fill in all this information before I click the button sign up. But what happens if I omit one of these fields? You will discover that even before I click on this button sign up, once I omit one of this field, an error is going to be prompted. Why? The reason is because we make use of JavaScript in this page. I won't get into details, but I'm just trying to use this registration form as a typical example so that you'll be able to understand the work of JavaScript. JavaScript works in virtually a lot of diverse ways, but the most generally used the most generally ways in which they make use of JavaScript is through validation. That is a forms validation, HTML form validation. Example of HTML form is what you are seeing presently. So if we want to validate this page now, we are going to use JavaScript. And how do we arrive at this is what we are going to talk about before the end of our JavaScript tutorial. So what happens is, if I enter my first name, I decide maybe I forgot to enter my last name, and I jump to email address. There will be a prompt that will tell me that the email address I entered is not correct. But right now the prompt hasn't tell me. But why do you think, even though I enter my email address, why do you think why do you think it's still giving an error signal? The reason is because this email address I entered here now is not a valid email address. A valid email address should contain something at something.com, but there is no at inside the email address I entered. So that is why you are able to see this error. So even before I click my sign up, an error has been prompted. The same thing happens if, let's say, I put in a very valid email address. Let me put in a password. Let me select a birthday, month, day, year. Let me choose this. You will discover that once I click on sign up, automatically, even before this page load, before you see this page load, this error that I omitted, the last name that I omitted here, is going to prompt an error. Let's try it. Can you see? Last name. You will discover that once I click on sign up, the error has prompted that what is your name, and you will discover that the browser hasn't loaded before this error is prompted. Whenever you validate a web page in such a way that the browser hasn't loaded before the error is prompted, or before you validate that particular HTML page, you make use of JavaScript. Whenever you see any page like that on any website, that the browser is not loading before the page is validated, they make use of what? JavaScript. But let's see an example of a validation with other language. An example of validation with other language is found in Facebook login forms. You will discover that if I type a invalid email address and I input my password, since this email address is invalid, if I click on login, if it's JavaScript validation, before this page load, there will have been an error prompt that this email is not valid. But if it's not JavaScript validation, if they didn't use JavaScript validation, if they use any other programming language validation, once I click on login, it will first load before the error is going to display. Why? Like this login forms now, Facebook make use of PHP validation. And PHP validation is very different from JavaScript validation, because JavaScript validation will not makes the page load. That is, the page will not refresh before the form will be validated. But when you make use of PHP validation, the page will have to load before the form will be validated. So let's log in now. You'll discover that the form is loading now. So later it will not tell me that the email what I supply is what does not belong to any account. Can you see login.php? So that means they make use of PHP validation here. That's why your page is able to load. But assuming they make use of JavaScript, we will not leave that particular page before this error message is going to display. So you now discover how you've understand about PHP validation and you've understand about JavaScript validation. But the only the reason many web page make use of JavaScript validation is because it is faster. Instead of a page to start loading. Okay, let's say for example now, if I enter another email address here now and the email address is not also correct, that means it has to load first before I will see reply. It's a waste of time. But as only I enter the first one, I click on login and they make use of JavaScript validation, I will see the error immediately. I will try it again, I'll log in, I will see the error immediately so that I will be able to correct it. So that's why JavaScript validation occurs very faster compared to every other programming language. But JavaScript is not mainly on validation. JavaScript has a lot of general purpose when it comes to web development. There are a lot of things that we make use of, there are a lot of things online that we use JavaScript to create. But validation is one of the important function of JavaScript. So, like I said, JavaScript is a lightweight interpreted programming language designed for creative network-centric application, complementary through and integrated with Java, with HTML, open and cross-platform. I've already told you in the previous example that JavaScript cannot stand alone. It has to be used along with other programming languages like HTML or Java. So in the example of validation, HTML, normally a form is created with HTML. So HTML forms is used along with JavaScript in creating a validation. That is, the AVML form is used along with JavaScript to create a validation form. So there are two types of JavaScript. We have the client-side JavaScript. Client-side JavaScript is the most common form of the language. The script should be included in or referenced by an HTML document for the code to be interpreted by the browser. What we are trying to say is, inside the HTML page, web page, let's say you create a HTML page, ade.html now. Inside that page, you will use your HTML code. You also embedded your JavaScript code inside the same file. Let's say you have a file ade.html now. Inside that same file, you embedded your JavaScript and you also embedded your HTML. That is what we refer to as the client-side JavaScript. And the other JavaScript is when we talk about the inclusion. That's so when we talk about the inclusion, that is say JavaScript in external files. when we talk about JavaScript in external file, that is to say, the JavaScript, the script you want to use is present in another file, a separate file named something.js, that is a something.javascript, and inside your HTML page you will now call the JavaScript file. Understand, there are two things. The first one is you embedded the JavaScript you want to use inside the same HTML documents, and the second one is you embedded the JavaScript you want to use in a separate file called something.js. Inside the HTML page that you want to use it now, you now reference to that something.js inside that HTML page. Don't get confused. All these things we are still going to explain to you one by one, but I'm just trying to give you an introduction to JavaScript. So right now, let's create our first JavaScript. Let's create our first JavaScript code. When you want to create a JavaScript, we make use of a tag called scripts. The opening tag scripts and the closing tag scripts. The opening tag scripts and the closing tag script, the difference between the opening tag and closing tag script is just this backslash in the closing tag. So in between the open tag script and the closing tag script, you are going to have your JavaScript code. So this script has two parameters, two important parameters. It has the first one, that is, it has two attributes. The first attribute is the language attribute, and the second attribute is type attributes. Let's start with the language attributes. What do we refer to as the language attribute? I've told you that the tag that you use whenever you want to write your JavaScript is scripts. But note, there are a lot of scripts, scripting language. We have JavaScript, we have VB scripts. We also have a lot of scripts like that, active scripts. We have a lot of scripts like that. So every one of them make use of the what? The script tag. But under the language of the script, you now specify that this time around though, I don't want to write VB script, I don't want to write ASCII scripts. The name of the script I want to write is what? Is JavaScript. That is why your browser will be able to know that what's contained in between the opening tag of the script and closing tag of the script is what? Is the JavaScript code. But assuming we put VB script here, then what contains in between the opening tag script and the closing tag script will be what? A VB script code. So there is no syntax for JavaScript. You can't just say JavaScript opening tag, JavaScript closing tag. There is nothing like that. Because JavaScript is a script, VB script is a script, as it actually active script is also a script. So every one of them is a script, but you have to pass in two attributes. The language attribute, which will tell you the name of the language you are trying to write, which is JavaScript, and the type. The type will now be what? Test underscore on test slash JavaScript. The type. The language JavaScript. Then the type is what? Text slash JavaScript. As we are writing VB script now, the type will be what? Text slash VB script. So whenever you want to write this JavaScript code, make sure that you have the script opening tag or closing tag, and under the script it will have two attributes, the language and the type. So let's write our first JavaScript. Before we get to this place, we have to first log into our FTP in order for us to run our application. To log into your FTP, your login detail is in the email we sent you during the course of your registration. So you go to Ewebtutor site, you click on FTP, So we log into our FTP accounts. Your host, I've already told you, your host can either be your IP address, the ewebtutor.com, localhost, www.yoursite.com, irrespective of whatever entered, because it's not even, you may try one of it and it may not work. So it's better for you to just try everything so that you'll be sure the one that used to work. But your IP address, you can get this inside Ewebtutor accounts. So just log into your admin area. Your username and password we've sent you during the course of your registration. Ewebtutor username and password. This is my username market, and my password for Ewebtutor is 12356. So I can supply this. and log into my account. So like this and log into my account. So inside my account, this is my IP address. So I will just copy this. I'll go to my FTP IP, my username. So this time around, it's not username for Ewebtutor, it's username for the cPanel. My username, my password. But it's better for you to be using your hand to type this one by one so that you won't make mistake, because there are some times that a space can be copied along with what you type and you just be, may not be able to. Can you see? So let me use my hand to type it. Can you see? So what happened is, when I copy this, a space is copied along with it. So at the end of the day, the password will be incorrect. So right now I've entered into my FTP account. So I can go to my www directory. So let me create a new file. Let me name it Javascript 1. I've told you, whenever you want to create a JavaScript, the first one we are going to do, I told you that there are two. The first one is you embed the JavaScript inside the HTML page, and the second method is you create a JavaScript file separately and you call it inside your HTML. But for right now, we are going to start with the one that you embedded your HTML inside. You embedded your JavaScript inside your HTML, because JavaScript cannot stand alone. So the name of the page will be something.html. That is javascript1.html. That will be the name of our page. So inside this page now, we have our JavaScript embedded inside the HTML document. So so right now, this is our text editor now. So we can edit the code for javascript1.html. So let's try this case. So let's try our first JavaScript program. So let me just try to explain to you. You'll discover that inside your HTML document now, we embedded a JavaScript inside the HTML document. So this is an example of client-side JavaScript, whereby inside your HTML code you place JavaScript. So right now, this is our script, and let's see what our script does. This is our open type script, and this is the closing type script. So our script, the language of this script is what? JavaScript. Normally you understand that we are writing JavaScript. The type is always test/JavaScript. So this line now is a single line comment in JavaScript. So whatever you write in front of this thing now, the system is going to see it as a comment that will only be visible to the web programmer, but the user that runs your application will not have access to anything you comment. So this line now is a comment. Although there is no content inside it, we are not trying to comment anything, but we just put it there, so it's a comment. Then this line, I will explain this, and this one also is a comment, single line comment. So the only program, as in the only statement that has an output in this JavaScript is just this line. In JavaScript, there is a function called document.write. There is a function called document.write in JavaScript, and the document.write is a function that give a screen output to your web visitor, or to your website, to your web users. So when you use document.write, anything you place inside these two quotes is going to show in your site as an output. So if I want hello world to show as an output when people visit javascript1.html, if I want hello world to show, and if I want you to show using JavaScript, then I will put document.write. So I will put this code. So anything inside this code is going to show as an output. But another way that I can write this in HTML is, if I don't use JavaScript, inside my body I can just say hello. I can write it directly. There is no function required for that. If I'm writing in HTML, sorry, there is no function required for that. if I run this program now, what I will just see as an output is what is hello world. But if I want to write an output using JavaScript, I have to use a function. So I have to use it. I've already explained to you that whenever you want to start a JavaScript program, you start with opening tag of script and a closing tag. So the function you have to use in writing an output will be what? Document.write function. So let's save this and run our code and see what we have. So we save this. So let's access our java1.html. The first thing you have to do is you access your domain URL, not your cPanel URL, your domain URL. So this is our javascript1.html. This is the file we created. This file that we created. This is it. So you can also access it using a link. Instead of clicking here, instead of clicking it here, you can access it here. JavaScript1. But make sure you get the full name .html. Can you see hello world? So hello world now is what you input in your what? In your document.write. So whenever you want to print an output to your site visitor, making use of JavaScript, then you use document.write. So now that's our first JavaScript program. So but note one thing, inside our HTML code we embedded what? A JavaScript inside it. So that's just our first JavaScript program. So another thing I want you to understand is scripts like VB scripts, the active scripts, PHP, and so on and so forth, Java. Whenever you write a single line, whenever you write a line statement, you always end it with what? A colon. You always what? You always end it with a colon. But note one thing, the program we wrote the other time, this one now, we didn't put a colon, and still our program still run. So that's just to tell you that in JavaScript, if you didn't end a line with a colon, the program will still run. But if you have two or more statements inside your JavaScript, you have to separate them with a colon or a space. What do I mean by this? If we have, let's say we have another document.write. Let's say we have another document.write, and this time around is hello world 2. Note one thing, since the document.write hello world is a statement, hello world 2 is also a statement. But note one thing, the document.write hello world, the first one, is in different line compared to the second one. So they are in separate line. So you can write them without putting a semicolon, without ending them with a semicolon. You can write them without ending a semicolon. But let's now say you want to write them in the same line. For JavaScript to know that these two are different statements, because you are putting them in the same line, JavaScript will just see them as a single statement. And there is no statement as document.write, document.write. So there will be an error in this code. So if you want to match two statements in the same line, you have to separate the statement what? With a semicolon. You have to separate them with a semicolon. But if you are putting two statements in different line, you may not end them with semicolon, and you may also end them with semicolon. So if two statements are in different line, you can end them or you may not end them with semicolon. But if you are merging two statements in the same line, make sure you end each of the statements a semicolon. So that's just what we are trying to explain here. That's why we say semicolon is optional. It's only optional if and only if the statements are in separate line. That is when it's optional. You can put it, you may not put it. But if the statement, the two or more statements is on the same line, then you have to separate them with what? With a semicolon. So look at this example now. This example now, var1 equals to 10, var2 is equal to 20. You can see that they are in different line, they are in separate line. So they may not end them with a semicolon. But this one now, they are in the same line. When they declare the two variables in the same line, so they have to separate them line as in with this semicolon. So it is good programming practice to make use of a semicolon. Case sensitivity. JavaScript is a case sensitive language. This means that language keyword, variables, functions name, and any other identifier must always be typed with a consistent capitalization of letters. What do we refer to as this? Look at this now. I told you that whenever you want to print an output in JavaScript, you have to use the function what? Document.write. But this document.write, you will discover that everything is in small letter. So when you want to write it, make sure everything is in small letter. But if you now put this D now, you input capital letter, and this W you use capital letter W, then there will be an error in this code. Why? Because the original function to create an output is document.write, and everything has to be small letter. So always note small letter. Use small letter where you want to use small letter, and use capital letter where you want to use capital letter. For reference, you can refer to Google so that any of this keyword, any of this function in JavaScript, you'll be able to know the capitalization it involves. So just note wherever you want to use capital letter, make sure you use capital letter, and wherever you have to use small letter, make sure you use small letter. So that's why we say JavaScript is what? It's case sensitive, just like Java. So another thing that we want to talk about is the comments in Java. I've already explained to you comments. Comments is just is just used when you want to document your code. When you are trying to, maybe when you write a code and you want to document it for future purpose, or maybe you want to write the code and send it to somebody, and that person you want to give that person you want to explain what each of the lines of the code, what it does to the person that is reading the code, then you can document that code making use of comment. Even though somebody run the application, they will not see the documentation. Everything you've commented, the user is not going to see it. It's only the people that have access to that source code that will be able to read your comment. So mostly comments are just for you as a web administrator, in order for you to be able to interpret your code, each of the lines of your code. So like right now, this document.write that I use here, for me not to forget the meaning of this function document.write, I can put a comment, and that comment can state, let me put a comment, I can put a comment, and the comment can say this is to print an output. So right now, if I save this file and maybe 10 years later I check this file back, if I see document.write, even if I don't remember the function again, once I see the comment at the top of it, then I will be able to know that okay, they make use of this function in order to print a output. So that's the reason for comment. So in JavaScript, a single line comment, when you want to comment a text or strings or words that is present in a line, you make use of this double slash. That's single line comment. So if I want to have another comment here now, all I have to do is what? I have to put double slash at the back of it. So whatever I write in front, the system will see it as what? As a comment. You will discover that if I save this file now and I refresh my web page and I view it here, the only thing I will still see is still what? Is still hello world. Because although there are a lot of things inside this web page apart from hello world, but the two other things that are there are also show as an output, I have commented them, so they will not display, the user will not be able to see it. But whenever I log in back to my FTP and I check JavaScript 1.html, I look at the source code, then I'll be able to see whatever comments that I put. So that's just single line comment. Then we have the multi-line comments. How does multi-line comment works? Look at this now. Let's say I want to have another comment here. I have to use this double slash. Let's now say I want to have a comment that occupy like 10 or 20 lines. Will I have to be using double slash every time? It's a waste of time. Because if I have comment that some comment, you may want to comment some things that it's the text is like let me say 120 lines. So will you try to be using double slash every time? It's a waste of time. So that is why we use multi-line comment. And how does multi-line comments works? You type everything you want to type. Then you open a multi-line comment opening tag. You close the multi-line comment closing tag. So anything you press inside this opening multi-line comment and the closing multi-line comment, anything you press inside it, is only going to be visible to you. So people that visit your web page, they will not have access to what you comment. So that's just about double line comments. Another single line comment that we have is this, and is what we use here. It's also a single line comment. Instead of using 2 backslash, you can also use this as a single line comment. And also this, they are all single line comments. So this is just an example. You can see this what they use a multi-line comment here. So for your case study, you can copy this code and run it in your FTP and see the output. You will discover that by the time you view it, you will not see any output. Why? Because everything that is there that's supposed to be an output has been commented out. So all modern browser comes with built-in support for JavaScript. Many times you may need to enable or disable the support manually. What we are trying to say is, it's not all browsers that support JavaScript, and some browsers they support JavaScript, but the JavaScript has been disabled, as in pre-disabled. So you need to enable them in order for JavaScript enable web page to be for you to view JavaScript enable web page. So what we are trying to say in essence is, we are going to teach you how the procedure in which you can enable or disable your JavaScript depending on whatever browser you are using. So for those people that are using system browser, like JavaScript now in Internet Explorer, for you to turn on or turn off JavaScript in Internet Explorer, you have to follow this step. You go to Tools, Internet Options from the menu, you select Security tabs from the dialog box, you click on the custom level button, you scroll down till you find the scripting option, scripting longer. But note, when you enable the scripting option, even if maybe the page you are viewing has a VB script, it's still not going to is going to show when you enable it. But when you disable it, both JavaScript, VB script, any scripting language is not going to show. You will not be able to view that kind of web page. So you select enable radio button under the active scripting, finally click OK and come out. So to disable, all you need to do is disable the radio button under the active scripting. Then you have disabled. That's when you are using Internet Explorer. But when you are using Firefox, like me now, I'm using Firefox. Look at it now. This page now, if I run this code now, all I will see as an output is hello world. But if I don't want my system to support JavaScript, I can disable it. It's because the reason I'm able to see I'm able to run JavaScript, that is the reason JavaScript output is able to come out of my browser, is because I enabled JavaScript in my system. So let me try to disable JavaScript, but before I go there, let's try to see how we can do that. All we need to do is we have to go to the Tools options. You have to go to the Tools option. Tools option. So what else? We select content menu. Can you see? Content menu. Select content option from the dialog box. Select enable JavaScript checkbox. Enable JavaScript. You enable JavaScript and you click OK. So depending on your browser, but most cases, all these from Mozilla all these on Mozilla latest version, it's the place that you can enable or disable JavaScript may have changed. So depending on the browser you are using, the versions of Mozilla that we are using. So if you are using a Mozilla, that's a new version Mozilla, the place you may find the enable JavaScript checkbox may be different. That means the page may be varies, but it will still follow this pattern. The same thing with people that are using Opera. So then let's say your devices, let's say it does not support JavaScript. That means if you view your web page, that means instead of seeing every word, everything you just see here is empty. Even though there is a script inside it, even though there should be an output hello world, but because the browser of that particular user that is viewing your web page does not support JavaScript, then they are going to see an empty space. So for user that doesn't for devices that doesn't support JavaScript, we're supposed to be echoing, at least we're supposed to be printing an information stating that they need to install JavaScript in order for them to view our web page. What did I mean by this? What I mean by this is that for users that are not using JavaScript enabled devices, there should be something that will prompt them, that will tell them that they need a JavaScript in order for them to view our web content. So how do we do this? We arrive at this making use of the no scripts tag. Look at it now. Look at this code. I believe you yourself you can explain this code without even me explaining it. You should be able to explain it yourself, just like what we did the other time. Here now we have the script. Normally the output should be hello world. That means if you are using a JavaScript enabled devices, you should see an output hello world. So right now, for somebody that is not using let's talk about somebody that is not using a JavaScript enabled devices. That means all these steps is going to be jumped because it will not show any output here because it doesn't support JavaScript. So right now it will now jump to this place. No scripts. That means for those people that doesn't have scripts, that doesn't have JavaScript enabled on their phone, what will they see? They will now see an information that says what? Sorry, JavaScript is needed to go ahead. So what I was trying to say in essence is, for somebody that doesn't have JavaScript enabled phones, they are not going to see hello world because hello world is only meant for people that have scripts enabled on their devices. So but for those for them, to them, they are going to see this message, sorry, JavaScript is needed to go ahead. Why? Because this message will only create it for those people that doesn't have JavaScript enabled devices, and that's why we use the tag no scripts. So that means whenever you are creating a script, you must also use a no script. It's not compulsory, but you must use it in order for you to give an information to people that are not using a JavaScript enabled devices. But what happened to those people that are using a JavaScript enabled devices? Normally they are going to see an output hello world, but when they get to this place, because this place is no scripts and they have scripts, then this place is going to they are going to jump this place. That means this message is not going to post to them. They are not going to see this message. Why? Because they have JavaScript enabled devices. So that's just about the no script. So now if user browser does not support JavaScript or JavaScript is not enabled, then message from no script is going to display it on the screen. So let's run another JavaScript code making use of functions. But we are still going to go into details on functions in JavaScript. But for the starter, let's try this code and see the output. So yeah, we have a JavaScript, and inside this JavaScript we have a function called alert. We have a function called say hello. So after this JavaScript we have a input button. I believe you know how to create this using HTML under HTML forms. We have input button, and that button we associate it with an on-click event. All these events we are still going to talk deeply in it. all these events. But for now, just know that on click events, it means that when user click on it, that when they click on it, we want this thing to happen. When user click on this button, and that's why we use on click. There is on press, we have on click. There are many events in JavaScript, are many. On press, on scroll, we have a lot of events. But right now, this event that we use here is what is on click. We said when user click on this button, it should open the function say hello. And where is the function located? The function is located inside your JavaScript. This is the function say hello. And what is the content of function say hello? Anything that is in between these parentheses, that is between this place, in between these parentheses, is what we refer to as the contents of that function. So the content of our function is what? Is alert hello world. What is alert? Alert is a function. They call it dialog. When you see an alert, another name for alert is a dialog box. A dialog box that displays information. It means an alert. You will have been coming across a lot of alerts, a lot of message box. You may have been coming a lot about a lot of them, but you may not notice how they create them. It's just this word alerts that they use. So whatever they put inside these codes will now be the message that will be that will be displayed inside the alert box. So alert is just a box. So anything inside these parentheses, anything inside these codes will now be what will be displayed inside the box. So right now, when the user run this application, this script, nothing is going to display. No output will be displayed in the script. Why? Because the only output that is there inside this script is alert hello world, and this alert hello world is placed inside the what? Inside the function says hello. And a function will always be there until something trigger the function. But right now, nothing has triggered the function. So whatever is inside this, whatever the content inside the function is not going to work except something trigger it. So that is why when the user run this program for the first time, nothing is going to show here throughout all this place. Nothing will display here. But when it gets to this place, there will be a form. There will be a form. A button. I say a form. A button. There will be a button. So under the button now, we now say on click. That's it. When the user click on that button, then it will now trigger the function called what? Say hello. And that is this function. It will trigger this function. And what is the content of this function? Alert. And what is the content of that alert box? Hello world. So let's run this program and see how it works. So let me just refresh this page. If I refresh this web page, you discover that nothing will first show nothing will first display in the script. Why? Because the only thing that is there, the only statement that is inside this JavaScript is inside the function, and the function cannot work alone. It's not work alone. It can't work alone except something triggered it. So now the only thing you just see on your page when you load the site for the first time will be what? A button. So we saw a button. Can you see a button? What is the value of the button? Say hello. That's why you see say hello. But now we said something should happen when user. That's why we said on the event there is on press, on a click, the lot of events. This is just a JavaScript introduction. We are still going to go into detail about the events. So for now, when the user click, so we said when the user click on this button, that is the on click event, then it should call what? When the user click, it should call say hello function. Then it will now call the function say hello. And what is the content of function say hello? Alert hello world. So by the time we click here, we should see an alert button hello world. So let's click. Can you see hello world? So this is an alert box, and this is the way they create. This is how you can create it. So all this kind of alert that you do see in a lot of sites, this is the way they built them. And we see an alert hello world. But let's modify this code. We want our hello world to be displayed immediately to user. When I refresh this web page, no matter how many times I refresh it, the alert will not come out. Why? Because the alert is inside the function, and until you press this button that calls the function, Until you press this button that calls the function, the alert will never come out, because the alert is present inside the function. So right now, what if we want a situation whereby the alert will show immediately we run our code? How can we arrive at this? How we can arrive at this is we should remove this function, so that the alert will just be inside the JavaScript. So the alert is not present inside the function now, abi? The alert is not present inside the function. The alert is not present inside the function. So immediately we refresh this web page now, the alert will just come out, because the alert is not inside the function. Until the alert is inside the function, that is when you need to call the function first before the alert will come out. But since the alert is not inside the function, when you refresh the web page, the alert will just be showing. Now if you refresh the web page 20 times, the alert will show 20 times, because you have already programmed it. You did not place the alert inside any function. But the reason the other time is that by the time if the other examples, if we refresh our web page even 1 million times, the alert will never come out until we click on that button, because of it's only the on click event that will cause the function says hello. And when the function says hello is called, the only content of that function says hello is what? Is an alert. So right now, let's save this and refresh our web page. You will discover that without clicking on that button says hello, without clicking on that button says hello, the alert is going to display. Wait, can you see? The alert will display. So even if I still refresh it, the alert is still going to display. So that is just on that. So we've tried this the other time. So in your lecture you can run it, and I believe you can interpret it. So if you run this kind of code now, what you will see is what is hello world. The hello world will come from the JavaScript. And note, this document.write is not present in a function. So when you run the code, you should see hello world. Then the next thing you will see in another paragraph, because this one is just an HTML, so no need of document.write, because this is an HTML code. You can see that the JavaScript has end here. So anything that is here now is in the body of the HTML, and is another paragraph. This is the web page body. So what you will see when you run this code is hello world. Then in another paragraph you will see this is web page body. So you can try it yourself. So another example is this now. Look at this code now. What happened when the user run it? When the user run it, the code will be going like this. When the code gets here, this is a function, or this is a function. So this function, I've told you that function will not work. Any content that is inside the function is not going to work except you call it. Because you did not call this function here now, it will jump. Nothing will show here. It will jump to this place. But note, something will show here, because this document.write is not present inside the function. So you are going to see hello world. And the next thing you will see after hello world is what? Is a button. So it's until you now click on this button because the an on click event is used. It's until you click on the button, then the button will now activate the function what says hello. Then what is the content of function says hello? Then you now see that alert. So when you run the code the first time, the only thing you are going to see is hello world and it's a button. Until you click the button, that is when function says hello is going to be triggered, and alert hello world is going to display. So that is just about. So you can also try that. I believe I've explained. So another thing that I want to talk about is JavaScript in external files. As you begin to work more extensively with JavaScript, you will likely find there are cases where you are reusing identical JavaScript code on multiple pages of a site. What we mean by this is, when we talk, this is just to talk about JavaScript in external files. That's you create a file separately in an external file, then you call it inside your HTML code, making use of these statements. And this statement is also a script. It has a type test on that slash JavaScript. I've already explained to this, but it doesn't have, this one doesn't have language. But the only thing that this has is source. Source is what? The name of the file that houses the JavaScript. It has to be something.js. The name of the file that the code, the JavaScript code you want to use is present, that you've put it. So you are going to include the name here. So let's see how it does. Before we see it, let's first create a file. Let's call it file name.js. Let's create a file. Let's go to the list. So let's create new file. let's call it, what should we call it? Let's call it file name.js. File name.js. So inside this file name.js, we are going to write a JavaScript code. So let's just use a small thing, JavaScript code. You don't need to open it because it's already a JavaScript page. So anything you write inside this is a JavaScript. So you don't need to open JavaScript tag, script tag, closing script tag. You don't need that because this is not an HTML page. It's until you are embedding JavaScript inside an HTML page that is when you need, so that because it's not JavaScript that owns the page, it is HTML. We are just borrowing the page. So that's why you have to tell the page that, okay, oh, I want to start my JavaScript. You put the script opening tag, and I want to end my JavaScript script closing tag. But right now, the name of this file is .js, .javascript. So the owner of this file is JavaScript. So no need of declaring opening script tag and closing script tag. So you can just write your JavaScript code like that. So let's use alert. So I want it to display alert. I am good. I'm good. So this is what I want. This is what I put. So in case I want to be using this file name.js, this content alert I'm good, I want it to be appearing in a lot of HTML page. So instead of me to just be putting script open tag, alert I'm good every time in all those page one by one, is a waste of time. I can just create a file called file name.js. My JavaScript code, I'm going to place it inside it. So any page that I need this JavaScript, any page that I need it, I'll just be calling it. So even if I need it in 1000 page, I will just be calling this file name.js, making use of this statement, the statement you are saying. So let's save this. So inside we've created file name.js now. Can you see file name.js? So inside our JavaScript 1.html, inside our JavaScript, we don't want to use any script again. So this is our HTML page, HTML body, head and body. But note, when you want to include an external JavaScript, that inclusion statement has to be in between the head opening tag and the head closing tag. Just note that. So we are going to bring in, this is our JavaScript file inclusion. JavaScript what? File inclusion. So the name of the file that we are trying to include, that is the JavaScript that is present in an external file, that we are trying to use. Normally, if the same thing that is there, the alert I'm good, we can embed it in this same page. But we are trying to teach you how to create an external, how to link to an external JavaScript. We've already created an external file called file name.js. So right now we are just using this statement now to link to that file name.js. So if you run this code now, what will be displayed is what? By the time the program is reading this, it will now, okay, script type text/javascript, source is file name. It will now go to source file name.js. So whatever JavaScript code that is present in file name.js, then the system will now display it. But in our example, it's just alert I'm good that is present in file name.js. So right now, let's save this and refresh our web page. Let's save this. So let's refresh the web page. Can you see? I'm good. So, but note one thing, this I'm good is not present in our JavaScript 1.html. It's present in what? File name.js. But because we have included it in JavaScript 1.html, so the content of file name.js is going to be displaying here. So this script now, any page, any HTML page that we want this I'm good alert to be displaying, we just need to copy this this statement. We just need to copy it, this statement, and be placing it in the head of all pages that we want to be displaying this alert I'm good. So irrespective of the HTML page that we want to be displaying alert I'm good, all we just need to do is we have to copy these statements and we should just be placing it into their header. So by the time we are running that page, irrespective of their page name, they will just be opening filename.js and they will be given an output. So instead of using an embedded JavaScript every time in all those pages, it's a waste of time. So you can just declare your JavaScript in an elsewhere, then just use this link that you are seeing now. Just call in the source, call the name of the JavaScript that you created elsewhere. Just be calling it then to keep on displaying. So that's just the JavaScript in an. So to use JavaScript from an external file source, you need to write all JavaScript source code in a single text file with extension.js and then include that file as shown above. So you include it as shown above. So you will rename this place to the name of that file that you put. For example, you can keep the following content in filename.js file. Can you see this content? You can put it in filename.js file, and then you can use say hello function in your HTML file after including that filename.js file. As I say, you can use the form just like the example that we did here. So when you create this function, then you can use this HTML form, this one. Because the reason you can't use this one, is if you use this one now, there's nothing that there is. So the reason we can't use this is because the filename.js consists of a function, because we've said that we should place a function, consists of a function, and inside this HTML code now there is nothing that will trigger that function. So that means if you use this function for this HTML content, nothing is going to display, because nothing in this HTML page that will trigger this function say hello. That is why I say that if you use this function, then if you use this function in your javascript.js file, then you can use this HTML document. Because right now when you load your content, this button now, it has an on-click event that will open that function that you use, and you'll be able to see an output. So that's just about that. So for the course of theory, please just go through each of these contents so that you have the theoretical knowledge about everything we are trying to pass across. Just know JavaScript is the most common form, as in the client-side JavaScript is the most common form of the language, whereby you embedded your JavaScript inside your HTML documents. So, and there are a lot of merits, advantage of JavaScript. Those are the less server interaction, the immediate feedback to the visitor, like the example of validation in Facebook, increased interactivities, richer interface. But it also have limitations, and one of the major limitations is not all devices, especially all these small devices, it's not every one of them that support JavaScript. So thank you so much for watching. You can go to our JavaScript 2, the second JavaScript tutorial. This is just JavaScript introduction. So thank you. Bye.